Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Commissioners' Conversations. My name is John O'Grady. I'm the president of the Franklin County Board of Commissioners. We started these online conversations a few weeks ago about topics that are of importance to you and your family. These topics we bring to you are all centered around what's available during the outbreak, safety tips and other useful information. Two early statistics that showed us how devastating and overwhelming this outbreak will be. It spreads very fast. Ohio's first coronavirus case was discovered on March 9th, and we now have more than, today was reported, we have 16,769 cases in Ohio with 799 deaths. And we had more unemployment claims filed in the first 4 weeks of this outbreak than all of the claims filed in 2018 and 2019 combined. Today, my guests are Nana Watson. Nana is the president of the Columbus chapter of the NAACP and senior vice pastor at Victor Davis at the Trinity Baptist Church. Before I get started, I wanted to provide some perspective on why today's discussion is so important. A lot of people may have heard that there is a racial disparity among COVID-19 and that patients who don't know about some of the details, and I'm sure there are others who haven't given a lot of thought to this, but under the belief that this doesn't affect them. In reality, though, the disparities affect all of us. So let me explain for a second. African Americans are becoming infected and dying at much greater rates than other populations. So in case you're wondering, here are some numbers locally. African Americans comprise about 28% of the population here in Franklin County, but they account for around 40% of the hospitalizations and deaths. So this is a big topic of conversation, a big topic for here in Franklin County. This is something that we've been dealing with. And so that's why I thought it was important for us to have this conversation tonight and important for us to invite our two guests on this evening. So I'd like to, before we get too much further into this, I'd like to, if I could, let my two guests introduce themselves and begin by going ahead and not only introducing themselves, but maybe having a few words to say about the topic. Let's start with you, Nana.
Well, Commissioner O'Grady, thank you so very much. And Pastor Davis, I'm so happy to have this discussion with you. But let me say, I bring you greetings from the oldest and the boldest civil rights organization in America. I believe this conversation is needed in our community. As you know, Commissioner, we're always talking, at least the NAACP is, and you as well, talking about seeing our community through a different lens. And I think this conversation hopefully will have people looking at the Black community through a different lens.
Thank you. Pastor Davis.
Good evening, Commissioner O'Grady and President Watson. It's good to be with you for this conversation. And I bring you greetings from the people of the Trinity Baptist Church located in the historic Near East Side of Columbus. I not only want us to have a conversation, but I want some proactive action following the conversation. And hopefully between the NAACP and our county commissioner and other political bodies and organizations, we can be proactive and stop being reactive to the many disparities that are in our community.
Fantastic. I'd also like to hear from both of you, if I could. What are some of the main concerns in the Black community, and how can the county assist us or assist you and the folks in the minority community during this time?
Pastor, I yield to you on that.
I was going to yield to you.
Oh, you were going to yield to me? That's okay. Tell me the question again.
Well, I got the question. I got it. The reality, Commissioner, is that those disparities and challenges for African Americans and the brown community are the same that they've always been. Disenfranchised, through education, through economics, housing, and health. Those are the main things that give a good foundation for people to be positive contributing citizens. And the minority population, the African-American population, has always historically dealt with those challenges of having access to fair housing, to fair jobs, to the economic system that we have been deprived of from our arrival to the United States. So it's the same. There's really nothing different. And when you look at when you look at the numbers, those numbers are reflective historically. If the minority population gets a cold, African Americans have pneumonia. So, and that's the way it's always been. The question is, what do we do to change that? And we almost feel like if the pandemic wasn't affecting everybody, that if it was only affecting a small populace of people that were Black and brown, would it be getting the attention that it's getting?
I think I want to comment on that. As you know, the NAACP is the voice for the voiceless. And Pastor touched on a variety of initiatives and game changers that the NAACP has been addressing, will continue to address. But with this COVID-19, we've got to go even deeper. And those game changers are education, health, economic sustainability, criminal justice, and get out the vote. Those things are always going to be with Black folk until we make some changes, until we become proactive rather than reactive. And the NAACP also has 10 equity implications of this horrible virus. And we have been addressing those issues and their housing and the things that I just alluded to. We will come up with short-term plans to address them via advocacy, and long-term plans, which means we will be asking Commissioner Grady, perhaps policy developed around those long-term advocacy issues.
Well, as you guys know, Nana, particularly since you've served on our committee, our leadership council, the work that we've been doing for the last couple of years in the area of poverty and trying to address the issue of poverty in Franklin County has identified race as one of the major issues in Central Ohio as it relates to poverty. But this pandemic shines a light completely on the issue of race, and as it relates to health, as it relates to poverty, as it relates to we shouldn't be in a situation where your zip code determines your health care, where your zip code determines all of these things that we've been discussing here for just the last few minutes. And COVID-19 has kind of shined a light on this for us. And there's too many times where we're understanding that that where folks live, where folks have grown up, where folks have because of these situations, their health care, their job, the type of the type of job they have puts them in a situation where they are more in danger of being exposed to COVID-19. So this has become a problem, and so these are the conversations that we've been having every morning at the courthouse. These are conversations that we've been having on a regular basis. So I think we're getting a nope. Okay. I want to remind people as we're starting off now that if you want to ask questions, go ahead and put them on. Go ahead and put them on Facebook, whether it's on the county's Facebook page, my Facebook page. Go ahead and I don't know if Nana, if you or Pastor had put this out on your Facebook, but if you want to go ahead and address these to Facebook, you can ask questions that way, and then we could have questions from somebody other than just me. Many people don't realize, but this continues to be an issue partly because we as a country have not provided basic equality for workers. Speaking of things like paid leave or hazard pay, Ms. Watson, Pastor Davis, What do you think should be done nationally for workers?
I believe that when you talk about workers, I think of the TSA individuals, I think of the domestic workers, I think of all of those groups of people, and we have got to begin to educate them on this toxic chemicals. We need to begin to share information and make sure when they go to work and if they're handling something that's toxic, they need to know what's going to happen and what is in this materials that they're using. I think just today, the nurses were complaining at the Ohio State University about not having adequate equipment, and they are taking care of individuals with COVID-19. So we have to be very, very mindful of that. We need to make sure that they are protected at all times.
There's something wrong with the system, Commissioner, when we are the richest, most resourceful country in the world, and we don't have the basic necessities to protect those who are on the front line and essential workers. Not only am I concerned and speak about those that are working in the healthcare profession, but anybody that's employed in the United States has a right to work in a safe and healthy environment. And for people to put their lives on the line every day is a direct indictment against a government that is more concerned with war than they are with humanity and the citizens that make this country what it is every day. So you say, what do we need to do? What can we do? First of all, I think we need to vote. Everybody has a right to vote in this country at a certain age. They ought to register to vote, and they ought to vote. They ought to cast their votes for those persons who are positive and contributing to change. And so oftentimes we are so concerned with the national offices, we forget about the local offices, such as the county commissioners and the city council and those offices. But they need to get out and vote people in that have the best interests of the community, and stop selling ourselves out. And I'm gonna speak as a pastor to politicians who make a round during election time and hold them accountable once they get in.
Yeah, and I want to add to that, Pastor Davis. I think once we elect our local politicians, they do have to be held accountable. When we're talking about issues that affect Black people around COVID-19 and prior to, we need to assist them and develop some type of policy for us. That's what's needed to address the issues that our community is facing. So holding accountable, yes. Voting, yes.
So as I talk here, our staff will be posting some charts on the from the Ohio Department of Health, highlighting cases by race and ethnicity, so that you may see that on Facebook scrolling. But these aren't just numbers. These are our coworkers and our neighbors and our family members that are being infected at rates that are greater than their racial or ethnic counterparts. So this isn't, it not only takes them from our families, but it robs us of their talents and their community contributions. All in likelihood, it's saddling many families with debt, and it's increasing the likelihood of more generational poverty. We'll get into this more a little bit later, but coronavirus in Franklin County had one of the lowest unemployment rates prior to coronavirus. Franklin County had one of the lower unemployment rates in the state, below 3%. Yet we had 17% of the county residents that were living in poverty, which is why we began the work on the poverty committee that we did, and the work in poverty that we began a couple years ago. The rates were even higher for African Americans at 29, almost 30%, and Latinos and Latinas at almost the same number. Children in Franklin County are in poverty at 26%. So, today's conversation on racial disparity is, it's also about it goes hand in hand with this issue of poverty, because, you know, as we were talking about earlier, you know, your zip code and your health care, you know, all of these things kind of go hand in hand, because, you know, folks are, when you have higher rates of hypertension, when you have higher rates of diabetes, when you have, you know, these issues, that's where, you know, some of this is coming from. And so this is why we began the work that we did at the time. And so, you know, we have, you know, we've been trying to focus on this, and Ms. Watson has been very integral part of some of this. So those were just some of the things, that the numbers that I wanted to throw out as a part of this conversation. So let me see. We have where else do we want to go here? And I want to remind folks to continue to send in their questions. So I want to raise the awareness, or the question about the movement that's going on right now called Stop the Spread. Local leaders have taken to social media to explain the importance of sheltering in place. We posted on videos on YouTube, and I don't know if have you guys seen this stuff? The it's all about sheltering in place and making sure that we're doing all the right things.
I think I've seen them, Commissioner. I think I've seen.
Yes, I've seen them.
Yeah.
Good. So we, I think we, you know, we need to do a better job. We've been talking about this at the courthouse. We need to do a better job of convincing folks to be active in social distancing. We need to do a better job of convincing folks to stay at home. Nan and I have talked about this quite a bit. We need to do a better job. We've had some local celebrities, former Buckeye football players, talk to folks, in particular young African American men, about wearing masks when they're out in public. And so, do you guys have anything?
Well, I have several.
Wait a minute, Pastor Davis. Wait a minute. I'm going to tee this up, because Commissioner O'Grady, Pastor Davis and I just talked about the mask, I believe, last week. And he gave me the scenario, and I was like, you're absolutely right. I just wanted to tee that up, Pastor Davis. I know you didn't need to.
Thank you for the introduction.
But I wanted to make sure that everyone heard that about this.
Well, you've got a few things going on. One, there is still a populace of people that don't take this pandemic seriously, because of our national leadership. Without calling names or positions, they don't take it seriously. They think it's a joke. They think it's a cloud or a forest for someone to be elected and to buy votes. That's what they think. They are looking at the timing of it and how it came out, why it didn't come out last year. So you've got that populace of people. Then you've got a generation of young people, such as my daughter, that don't take it seriously. They've read that scripture, eat, drink, for tomorrow you will die. And so they don't take it as serious, because they just don't. This generation doesn't. But then when you mention the mask, which is what our president of the NAACP was referring to, let me paint this picture for you. A 6'2", 200+ African-American male walking into Myers with a sweatshirt on and a mask over his face. Just let that sit in for a while. Regardless of the pandemic, there's already a preconceived picture of who and why that person is there. And for many African-American men in particular, we are not comfortable as it is with what society paints of us. Then for us to have to put on a mask, we have to decide how we want to die. Do we want to die from a bullet or do we want to die from a pandemic? And so we struggle with getting the message to our congregations and our citizens that this is real, this is necessary, but there still has to be some constant diversity training going on for those who work in the public sector, and especially in our stores, and let them know that we're trying to be safe just like everybody else. I think people often take for granted that they say, okay, just put on a mask. That's a whole different story for the African-American male. And so I think in that, the more men you see of African-American descent saying we need to wear a mask, but there also needs to be some education on the other side that men walking into a store with a mask on are not there to rob the store. We're trying to be safe just like everybody else, and we should be treated that way.
Pastor, if I might, I was talking to a majority girlfriend of mine, and we were talking about the mask, and she said, Nana, you know, it's not your problem. She said, it's the majority's problem. They have got to understand, the majority community has to understand what message that is being sent. They need to understand because we're living it every day. So we need to begin to encourage the majority community to get that message out about face covering, mask, or whatever we shall call
them. Well, I appreciate you guys addressing it. No, I appreciate you guys addressing this issue. You know, this is an issue that you know, White County Commissioner John O'Grady can't speak to, at least not with any authority. So
exactly. You and I can speak of our hairline. That's about it.
Exactly right, Pastor. I can speak about it. I just shouldn't. And you know, I certainly can't speak about it with any authority. But I appreciate you guys talking about it. So because it needs to be spoken about. And look, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm glad that with my 5,000 Facebook friends that I was able to bring this issue to folks who are on this Facebook feed tonight, paying attention and listening to it. And so you know, look, if we're just waking some people up to the issue, that's what's important. And so thank you for addressing it for us tonight. So I have a question from a Facebook.
Did you want more? Did you want more, Commissioner? No, I'm just teasing you.
Yeah, I want more. That's why you're here.
No, I'm just teasing you.
So I have a question from a Facebook viewer. Man, that's all you do is tease me. So, you know, what would be new? What would be new? So having a family doctor has created many barriers to receive healthcare services during COVID-19 cases, specifically for underinsured, marginalized Black and Latino communities, as they do not have one and are told to stay home or go to the ER to get tested. How can we overcome this barrier so that these communities can access healthcare services they need to improve the overall health of Franklin County?
Is that question specific to the COVID or just overall health?
It sounds like it's addressed to overall. They've indicated during this COVID issue here, but it sounds like it's an overall question. Yeah, they specifically, they want to improve the overall health of Franklin County. So,
well, I think those, if they're talking about Black and brown people, as I understood the question to be,
yes, very specific.
Okay, how can we improve their health care? Is that?
Yes.
I think we're always going to be, Black people are always going to be the ones that we seldom have good health care. We live in communities that there's no grocery stores. We have underlying conditions. We don't know where to go. We're busy working and we don't know how to fill out all those papers, and everybody wants us to go online. We've got to come up with a different way to communicate. We also need to begin to give this community places, establishments that they can become connected to. I don't know how they're going to do it with COVID-19. People said you can do a teledoctor or I don't know how that's going to work because I won't be doing that. And I'm concerned that our seasoned citizens won't be able to do that as well.
There is, and Ms. Watson hit on it, there is a common thread that runs through, I think, both communities, the majority and the minority, is that we're forgetting that there is still a great technical divide, that there are still persons in our community that don't have access to the technical information system. We've discovered that when they closed down the schools, and then it came to light of just how disproportionate the inner city schools are to the suburb schools. Wasn't a big issue for my children. I live in the suburbs, but for the majority of my congregation who lives in the inner city, it was a challenge. If they did have laptops or computers or smartphones, their Wi-Fi connection oftentimes wasn't in their home. It was when they was in a public setting. So there you have another challenge. Making sure everybody gets information, not only, and I'm saying like this, in the air, but also in their hand. So we still need to use pencil and paper. The other concern that I think that would help improve healthcare is access. And the government officials pushing policies to bring down the cost of healthcare. One of the main challenges of the minority community, the Black community, the reason they don't seek healthcare often is they don't have the money to pay for it. And the days of Dr. Jones on the corner giving me a bill to pay on is gone. You go to one of our major healthcare providers, you have 100 specialists to go to, you pay a copay. That, I mean, if you got insurance, the process of getting into the insurance system is a headache. Everything is red tape and difficult. So by the time, if I'm having a heart attack, by the time I apply online, I'm dead, you know? And so we've got to make the system easier and bring the costs down. It's interesting to me, especially in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to step on some toes here, that every elected official in the Senate and the House has top of the line health care. They vote on it annually. They vote on their own raises, by the way. And yet they argue, fuss, and fight over the health care of the persons who elected them. Something's wrong with that picture. And so in America, you know, we hear of these other countries where everybody has health care. You know, I'm not smart enough to know what the economics status is of them doing that. But you mean to tell me America, who can put a person on the moon, can't give somebody basic health care and coverage? I just don't get it. It's just one of those questions I guess won't ever be answered on this side of the Chili Jordan.
Well, I'm going to say we need health care for all, and NAACP, that is one of our game changers and one of our 10 equity implications. So we're going to be discussing that with those individuals that represent us on the Hill. Again, we need to help them and give them a little nudge. Sometimes we have to tell people what we want as opposed to people planning for what they think we want. We've got to get in there and say, hey, this is what we want.
So the two of you brought up issues that are things that we've been working on at the county. You brought up, when the schools were out and you've got, suburban schools, all the kids have a laptop, or not a laptop, all the kids have an iPad. Very few of the children don't have access. Don't have access. Very few of the kids don't have access to Wi-Fi. When they initially figured that this was a problem, they immediately addressed it. But in inner city schools, Columbus City schools, this is a much bigger problem. Here's an issue that folks in the suburbs don't, and I'm constantly, as a county commissioner, this is something that I'm constantly dealing with suburban folks who question me all the time about policies that we pass at the county commission. For instance, here we are in the midst of COVID-19. Nobody wants to go to a grocery store. So in the suburbs, they order as do we, I admit my wife and I do this on a regular basis. We order our groceries from, the grocery store and either you go pick them up. A lot of people, they have them delivered to their house. Not really an option in a lot of parts of town. Because I spend a huge chunk of my time dealing with the food deserts that are in the neighborhoods. A lot of the neighborhoods of the folks that you represent. Some of the neighborhoods, Pastor Davis, where not far from where your church is.
Or where my church is. There is no grocery store within the Near East Side.
That is true. There's no grocery store. We spent a great deal of time dealing with Kroger when they closed their Kroger on Cleveland Avenue, not far from New Salem Baptist Church. We spent a great deal of time dealing with Kroger when they were trying to close a couple of their stores in other neighborhoods, and we've been trying to deal with putting fresh fruits and produce and cheeses and things in corner stores and markets. Some of the places that Ms. Watson and I have been dealing with, trying to help to make sure that folks have the ability to cash their checks at banks as opposed to check cashing places and corner stores, so they don't lose their relief money and their PRC money here in the next few weeks when it comes out. And so, these are these are issues that folks in the suburbs don't understand and don't deal with. And the people that you guys represent on a daily basis are faced with and are faced with not only every day, but are faced with in making life doubly difficult now in the era of COVID-19, when you've got to deal with how do I get groceries? How do I get food into the house? How do I deal with healthcare? How do I deal with educating my child when they're not in school every day? These are things that are, a big problem for families every single day. And a large remainder of the community doesn't understand it, doesn't think about it, doesn't care about it. And we're faced with it all the time. We get questions as a county commissioner. I get questions about it every time we pass a resolution that some Republican in the suburb doesn't like.
Commissioner Grady, if I might, I'd like to speak to the Chromebooks. And Pastor Davis is correct. The children in the suburbs probably were given their Chromebooks beginning of the year. Our children in the largest school district, they were not given their Chromebooks until COVID-19. Now, something is really wrong with that picture. And that's something that the NAACP will address with the school system at a later date. But I want to go back to the seasoned citizen. We have a lot of seasoned citizens raising their grandchildren. You take that Chromebook home to grandma, she's not going to understand how to do that. And I don't know how we can come up with a plan to remedy that. I don't know. I know we can't go out, but something's got to be done for seasoned citizens who are raising their grandchildren. And it's problematic for the NAACP. Just really, I don't even want to get started on this Chromebooks. Only one household maybe has 4 kids. You only get 1 Chromebook. Seriously? There needs to be better planning. I would have loved to have seen, or maybe I need to ask the school district, do you have a plan for a catastrophe in our community other than snow?
Well, the necessity for our students to be technically astute is not a crisis issue. The fact of the matter is the Columbus Public School System students should have had access to technology before the pandemic.
That's right.
And I think it's an indictment on all of us as citizens of Franklin County that the students this had to happen in order for for Chromebooks or whatever they got to be distributed, and then they're distributed with limitations, and then the limitations, because they don't have Wi-Fi, then the churches are shut down. Those churches that got Wi-Fi, the libraries are shut down, public spaces. And the question needs to go to our school system. Why is it that our kids don't have the necessary tools that they need to function in a society that's so highly technical? Miss Watson, I know you're a grandmother, but your grandchild would show you how to use that if they had it.
Yeah, so, they would.
Yeah,
they have.
And so, since we are tax-paying citizens, and that we pay taxes, I pay taxes in Columbus as well as Gahanna. I can ask the question: why is it that Columbus Public Schools don't have what they need? Churches pay property taxes oftentimes on property that they're not using for religious uses. So the church has a right to ask, why is it that our schools are not air conditioned? Why is it that the students don't have Chromebooks and teachers don't have the necessary supplies? I don't have an answer to that question, but we can pose the question.
I will say this, Pastor Davis, we had a town hall teleconference, or whatever the term of that.
Virtual conference.
Okay, virtual conference. Just help me with this.
Virtual.
and those were questions that we were receiving. We went Facebook Live. Is that right, Pastor Davis?
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Okay. We went Facebook Live, and we had a lot of questions about the Columbus City Schools, about graduation, virtual graduation. Are they going to get their money back for their fees? All of those questions are going to be submitted as we receive them, bad grammar and all. And we're going to submit those to the board. The Board of Education needs to begin to answer questions about the Columbus City School District. They're elected officials. Anything short of them not answering our questions is not acceptable. And I'm off of the Columbus City Schools right now because I can go on, and I don't want to do that.
All right, I have some questions from viewers. So put us on the spot here. The first question is, how can Latinos be represented in these conversations about racial disparities?
Make some noise.
Make some noise.
Latinos have a right to speak up for themselves and their own civil rights, their economic and educational rights, just like every other citizen in the United States. So I would encourage the Latino community to speak up.
That is true. That is true. That is a great answer. But we also have the New Americans Council in Franklin County. Commissioner Boyce has led that effort for the last few years. It's a great organization. He's done a great job, and so we have certainly got and we have funded that. There's been a great effort there, and so we have there's certainly great avenues there at Franklin County to be able to do that. They can reach out to either my office or Commissioner Boyce's office without any hesitation. So please do that.
And we need to be sure that the new citizens of America and this county, let me restate that the historical citizen of this county, the person who was born in this county, gets the same kind of response that new American citizens get, and the same kind of assistance, because there is a feeling that those who are new Americans oftentimes have access to resources and get resources quicker than those who have been born in the USA.
Well, we have a motto at Franklin County that says every resident, every day. And so I like that. I would let you know that we do everything we can to make sure that anybody in this county who is in need gets assistance, no matter what. And so I would tell you that if you are somebody in this county who is in need of any type of assistance, you get it. And I would tell you Joy Bivens, our Director of Job and Family Services, is tremendous. And she lives that motto every single day. And so, and I guarantee you she's watching tonight. And so I better
I was just getting ready to say, thank you, Joy.
Yeah, I better watch my P's and Q's. So, yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Grady, if I can, I want to share and thank the county commissioners for all that you do. And you didn't pay me to say that, because you are accessible. The county commissioners are, all three of them are accessible. And for sure, Director Bivens is, because the NAACP blows up her phone. So I encourage people to reach out to you. They're human just like we are. I've shared with the commissioner things that the NAACP didn't like on several occasions, as Commissioner O'Grady can attest. But you know, as a result of that, we made a change and we made a difference because of that partnership. So I encourage Franklin County residents to reach out to our county commissioners.
I appreciate that, Nana, on two fronts. One is the encouragement for folks to reach out, but two, I also appreciate that because nobody knows better that we're accessible. Nana called me last night. We talked for what, more than an hour, probably. But if you don't have my cell phone number in this county, I'm not, my wife's saying, don't give everybody your cell phone number on Facebook. I won't do that. I won't do that.
John, this is a pastor speaking. Don't give everybody your cell phone number.
What I was going to say is if you don't have my cell phone number, you're not trying very hard, because it's a pretty easy cell phone number to get. I'm not going to give it out on Facebook Live, but it's a pretty easy cell phone number to get. A lot of folks have it. Number one, but number two, people message me on Facebook all the time. If you're already on this Facebook feed, you've got access, and so I'm pretty accessible. We all are. We're elected officials. We're public officials. It's our job. This is what we do. It's what we got elected to do. So you shouldn't be afraid to be accessible. So thank you, Nana. Next question. I don't know if it's a question. It's a suggestion. Please give thought to developing community health navigators to assist with ensuring folks have access to advocates. I think that's a great suggestion, and I think we're doing that, and we do that. So
yeah, and I think on lines with that suggestion, if the county and the city would make an effort to partner more with our faith communities. The faith community has access to thousands of people weekly. And many of our services can be provided through churches, parking lots, buildings. And I think the pandemic is pushing us to do that, because as resources go away, many people are running to the church even more, like they've always run. And so I think, in addition to what the comment was just made, that partnering with the faith community would enhance and help the community even greater.
And I'd like to add on to that, Pastor Davis. The NAACP meets at Pastor Davis's church, and we're always so grateful. And I'm going to give you that speech right now.
Oh, Lord.
But I tell you this, when the county sends the NAACP information, we put it on Facebook, and then we shoot it out to our pastors. I'm always the one that says, Pastor Davis, do this for us. And for the past Sundays, when he's been live streaming, is that right, Pastor? Is that right?
You've got it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Somebody called and said he gave the NAACP a shout out, but it was about the program that the county started for seasoned citizens 60 and over about the food delivery. So that's a way that we access the faith-based community. And again, we encourage you to do that because they are accessible. And if they're not, you need to call them and ask them why not. They need to be held accountable as well.
One of the other organizations that I should give a shout out to while we're on the topic is the Urban League. President Hightower and the Urban League is another one of our great partners at the county. We do just a huge amount of work with the Urban League throughout the course of the year. We've done just a large amount of work with them again through the pandemic. They've been a great partner of ours, but but Stephanie and her organization are great partners of ours. We contract with them and do work with them throughout the course of the year, and we wouldn't be able to get so much of our work done if it wasn't for them. So they're just a great partner. Hey, by the way, one of the notes I just got, not a question. Joy is paying attention. She said,
"Are you paying attention?"
Says hello to all three of us. It's a hey, Joy says hello to all three of us, but that's her way of letting me know that I better be on my P's and Q's. So, and also from Joy, she wanted to let me know that the commissioners fund the community health navigators. So to the viewer who made the suggestion earlier about the navigators, the commissioners we do fund the community health navigators. So that's what you have staff for, to remind this commissioner about things that I don't always know everything about. I can't remember all that stuff, but Joy does.
You remind NAACP as well.
Yeah, there you go.
So she's everywhere. And don't forget this, do this. That's okay.
That's what we have Joy for. And then, watch Joy. I'll probably jump in on this one too. Do we have a plan to eliminate the digital divide for children and seniors? Well, you know what? I don't. Here's one for you. This is an elected official, a politician who is willing to tell you, I don't have a plan for everything.
And I respect you greatly for doing that.
I have kids that are 23, 21, 16, and 12. We have a divide there. And I told all of them, if you're my older ones especially, they were taking AP US history. If you don't get an A+ in that class, that's your own fault, because you got the best tutor in the world. And so all my kids have aced that class. But once they got to about 6th grade, I told them, well, I can't help you with math anymore. I got budget directors for that stuff. So I have a 6th grader, and she comes to me with math problems. I say, go see your big brothers. They're really good at math. They can help you through that. Or go see your mom. They can help you with that stuff. So I have no idea how to help. I think between seniors and children.
Yeah, I think one thing we can do to help the digital divide is access. Give seniors free educational access to our community college, information at the libraries to help them. When I became a citizen of Central Ohio over 24 years ago now, we had a computer lab, and that computer lab at that time educated predominantly seniors during the day. But as everyone got to have access and the cost of computers went down, of course, we didn't have a need for that class, but there's still, if you're carrying a smartphone, you're carrying a computer. Yeah. And so making sure that there's opportunities that are supported, sponsored, and funded that give citizens free access and educational opportunities. That's how you handle the divide for the young as well as the old. And, hold people to the fire and making sure that information gets out.
That is absolutely correct. Access and affordability are the two biggest issues there. Affordability, I mean, smartphones are not cheap things,
But everybody has one. They're not cheap, but people will spend money on what they want.
Well,
that is exactly correct. So I mentioned earlier, and we have about 10 minutes left. So if you are on Facebook and you want to get your questions in, now's the time to get it done, because we only got about maybe less than 10 minutes now. I'm checking the time here. Yeah, a little bit under 10 minutes left. So get your questions in. Now is the time. So I mentioned earlier the work that we have been doing around poverty over the last couple of years. Nana's been on our leadership council. She's been there through the entire process. Joy Bivens, our Director of Job and Family Services, has been leading this effort for the county commissioners. And we spent a couple of years working on this. We created the Rise Together Blueprint. And it's the group together, this group, we did, so the group began to meet. We ended up doing a couple of hundred meetings in the community with folks that were living in poverty. We had months and months of meetings, months and months of conversations. Nana was there all the way through the process, as you can imagine. She was very opinionated. She spoke truth to power, which is what Nana does best. And I think Nana will tell you that it was a great process. The group came up with 13 short-term and 120 long-term goals. Commissioner Brown and Commissioner Boyce were fantastic partners and leaders in this whole process. We have created and decided to spend a gigantic amount of money towards this effort. The county spends well over $100 million annually on the symptoms of poverty, things every day, day in and day out. You know, every year annually, we spend over $100 million battling poverty. We decided that we were going to spend $2.5 million a year going forward on what we call the Innovation Center. This was a concept that Commissioner Boyce came up with. And it's an idea to I apologize, I'm gotten a little tongue tied here, but the idea was to vet and tease out, you know, new ideas, big ideas, things that they're doing and that are being pursued in other places around the country, because we want to be able to take a fresh look and be able to do things that are, you know, these big ideas that we're not doing here, that people aren't doing here, because we want to put a set of fresh eyes on poverty and do things that are outside the box, because you know, everybody's tried everything, you know, is kind of the you know, one way to look at it, and so we want to be able to you know, we want to be able to attack poverty in a different way, because, you know, people have been battling poverty for generations, and, you know, we need to do something different here in Franklin County. And
Mr. Commissioner, when you speak of poverty, are you including the homeless population and those in transition when you say poverty?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. But we're also talking about generational poverty. And when we did this, Pastor, the very first thing that we identified was that race was at the very root of poverty in Franklin County. And so we addressed race. We spoke out on it, and we did racial equity training. We've continued to fund racial equity training, and we will continue to fund racial equity training going forward. So, and you can find, for those that are viewing, you can find more on our poverty work at commissioners.franklincounty.ohio.gov/poverty. It's all there. The blueprint is all there. And so the work that we've been doing on this issue is all there. You can take a look at it. And so my wife is over here writing, so that means that somebody's sending in a question. So we'll get to that here in a second. So what do you guys think that we ought to concentrate on going forward? Is there anything that you guys think that we ought to be thinking about, you know, as we're getting ready to wrap up here in the next few minutes? Are there anything that the two of you think that we ought to be thinking about as it relates to COVID-19?
Access, affordability, and partnership.
Access, affordability, and partnership. Collaboration.
And I also think we can't let race off the hook. We've got to have that conversation. And I had the opportunity to participate in that. For some, it was uncomfortable when you began to talk about people that don't look like you, the color is different than yours. It became uncomfortable for me for a minute, and then I just had to back up. But yeah, we need to have that, because I think that's the elephant in the room. And until this community begins to see things differently through a different lens, we're not going to move forward, because we all need to rise together.
Well, I appreciate that. That's for sure. So let me check the time here. My wife is giving me the high sign. We have 3 minutes, she tells me. She just gave me a note that says, a viewer feels that the county is really engaged. She wants to know how we can engage the suburbs and the surrounding areas. Well, you know, I have some thoughts on that. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think perhaps the NAACP, we're going to have to expand further. We really have just been focusing on Columbus, but you know, it's volunteer driven. We can't be everything to everybody, but certainly we need to begin to reach out to the suburbs and impart information to those individuals, and to hear from them about what needs to happen. That's the suggestion that the NAACP is offering up.
So just as the crisis began to come about, we at the courthouse and county administration, we were planning and had in the works a series of events throughout the county, in different locations throughout Franklin County, inner city, suburbs, and all around. We were going to do anywhere from 4 to 5 of these events, kind of, for lack of a better way of, we hadn't really decided what to call them yet. They were going to be county fairs, community fair, but the idea was to take county government out to the people, go to a recreation center or a community center, someplace like St. Stephen's. I think actually St. Stephen's was one of the places we had talked about doing with these things. But take every agency of county government, every elected office, every department of county government that was interested in, all the commissioners' agencies were going to be forced to do it whether they wanted to or not. But the courts, the elected offices, take everybody out, set up booths and all the information that folks could bring along with, and then reach out to our faith-based community, reach out to our community partnerships, our community partners, reach out to the NAACP, reach out to the Urban League and others, reach out to all of our partners, everybody that we could think of, and invite them all in, and have a 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on a Saturday kind of an event, so that we could express to the community in 4 or 5 different events throughout, from May through October. This is who county government is. This is what we do for you. These are the services that we provide. So that everybody, as much as we could reach out to them, would know and understand more about who we were, what we do, what we can provide, and what the organization is all about.
Part of the challenges you face, and the other Commissioner Boyce and Brown face, that the suburbs are not in need of many of the services that the county commissioner provides. Most of the time, those services that you offer and fund greatly are needed by inner city persons. So that's a reality, but it's a real fact that those who live in the outskirts and beyond 270 oftentimes don't need job and family services. They're probably working there, but they don't need those services that job and family services provide. So that's a challenge that is because of economics and accessibility that many of the citizens in this county have.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Dana.
I'm wondering, I know Director Bivens, I'm certain, and if she doesn't, she'll get them. This number of people living in poverty in the suburbs, I'm wondering, has that increased? And what does that look like?
Oh, yes, I can tell you that. I owe you. It's increased because many of those persons who were employed now don't have jobs.
Right.
So having persons in the suburbs even know the system and know what the system offers as a result of the pandemic, now those persons are having to look to those services that they've never looked to before.
I'm wondering, Commissioner, if Director Bivens could give us the stats on prior to COVID-19, what did it look like in the outlining areas? And then what it looks like now. She'll probably have that in the morning.
So Director Bivens is on Facebook now, texting it. So and she says she's got the data, she can confirm it. But what I will tell you, Pastor, is that you are largely correct in that the majority of folks that are her clients, a large number of them are those living in the inner city. But with over 300,000 clients, we have them all over Franklin County. They are representative of all over Franklin County, including in the suburbs. That being said, that's one agency. We have the Department of Aging. We have Franklin County Children's Services. We have developmental disabilities. We have so there's Adam H. I mean, when you take in and factor in all of our agencies, so yes, in that one agency, there would be a percentage that is probably greater in that particular population, but for the last number of years, and we saw this in the poverty work that we did, for the last number of years, poverty has been moving outward into the suburban and the outlying areas. But you are correct in that the majority does still reside in the inner city, but it is certainly spreading. So we are beyond our time, and so we have to wrap up. I want to thank you guys for being with us tonight. I want to thank you more than just thanking you for being on the program tonight. I want to thank you for all the work that you're doing and the folks that you're representing and all that you do for the voice that you lend in the community. It is fantastic, the everything that the two of you do to represent the folks that you represent. And it's just great that you were willing to be on with me tonight. I'm truly appreciative of it. So thank you.
We thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for all you do and always being accessible. Thank you. I
have a few things I need to do. I need to remind folks that this is a series. We're going to continue to do these. I have another Facebook Live on Thursday night. We're going to be talking with some of Nana's friends in organized labor on Thursday night. We're going to talk to Dorsey Hager from the Columbus Building Trades, along with Steve Stein with the Columbus Firefighters, and Mark Fluharty, who represents the AFL-CIO and the United Food and Commercial Workers. We're going to talk to those guys on Thursday night. And for any information you guys might want, please go to commissioners.franklincountyohio.gov. Go to the NAACP's website. Nana, you want to get, it's www.naacpcolumbus.org.
Thank you.
Is that correct? The Columbus Urban League website. Columbus Urban League's website is www.cul.org. Pastor Davis, do you have a website you want anybody to go to?
Of course I have a website.
What I figured.
www.trinity-baptist.com. Simultaneous virtual service every Sunday at 10 a.m. Facebook, YouTube, and streaming.
Okay, so let's do that again. www.trinitybaptist.com.
Nope, www.trinity-baptist.com.
Trinity-baptist.com. All right, and that's Sunday, virtual service on Sunday.
At 10 a.m., Sunday school at 9:15.
Excellent. All right.
And we accept all offerings.
Awesome.
I am a Baptist pastor.
There you go. There you go. There you go. And we want to remember to thank Jamie up there for signing for us. Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jamie.
You did get pastor's plea for offering. Do that again for him. Make sure you take offerings to Trinity.
I think this is thank you, right? Is that thank you? Yes. Okay. All right.
All right. Then also remember, you can catch us on not only Facebook, but Twitter, Instagram, and Nextdoor. So once again, I want to thank President Nana Watson of the NAACP and Pastor Victor Davis, the senior pastor at Trinity Baptist Church. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you being on tonight.
Thank you.
Take care. Stay safe and healthy.
You be well.
Take care, guys.
Uh-huh.
Bye-bye.